I love the One Piece trading card game, and I love to spend money on this game efficiently. Buying singles for your deck has always been the most cost-effective way of building a deck, but in this challenge, we throw that all away. Each week, I use a budget of $30 to open sealed product in the hopes of adding new cards to our deck. But since we can only play cards in our color, any cards we can't use, we can trade away. And there are additional buffs locked behind certain challenges. Join me in my journey as I rise up to become the King of the Pirates. You're watching One Piece from Scratch. Welcome back, Pirates, to another exciting episode of One Piece from Scratch. As I've teased in the past few episodes, we're going to have some new bounties in this episode. You guys absolutely knocked it out of the park with some bounty suggestions in my last video, so I had a lot of good ideas to choose from. So with that in mind, I'll be introducing 5 new quest bounties instead of the typical 4. Along with that, I'll also have 2 new Cypher bounties, so let's not waste any time and hop right into it. So first, based off of this comment, is to KO a 10 cost or greater character 3 times for an alt art upgrade. This refers to the cost at the start of my turn, so KOing something like a Jack would still count towards this bounty. Next, based on this comment, is to win a game with only common cards for an extra $15 to our weekly budget, or for our budget that week. Obviously, this would take us off of our main deck for the week, so we do need to make some specific plans around this one. Next, based on this comment, is to win a local tournament 2 times for a choice of 2 starter decks. I see this as a tougher bounty that allows us to branch out into another strategy if need be. Next, based on this comment, is the bounty to resolve Gecko Moria 3 times in one game. I would hate to be on the receiving end of this, but regardless, the reward is an extra $15 to that week's budget. And finally, based on this comment, is to win with 5 different Navy type characters on the board for an alt art upgrade. I think this is actually really interesting because that means we can't go for a game with some of our big top end like Moria or Kaido, so we're going to have to plan around this one specifically. Not only that, but we also have 2 new Cypher bounties. I'd like to think that solving these will be a step up from the previous few that I've made, and as always, you're going to have to use context clues throughout the episode and throughout the series to make a guess on what the bounty says. If you correctly guess the bounty word for word in the comment section, you'll be shouted out in the next video. And as always, I'll be looking for some suggestions for the next batch of bounties releasing on episode 25, so keep on leaving your suggestions for bounties in the comment section below. And while you're there, also drop a like and sub to the channel if you haven't already. With all of that out of the way, let's move on to the opening. Alright gamers, so with a rolling budget of $3.50 and at $5.50 a piece, we can grab up to 6 more packs of PRB 01, so let's hope that this is just 6. Nope, we need 1 more from the right side. So we're clearing out the left side, moving on to the right side, but as we know from the last episode, we got a lot of hits out of that first opening, so we got the alt art as well as a secret rare, so I'm not sure how stacked the rest of these packs are going to be. Hopefully we've still got some pretty cool stuff in here. I know we still have to get that the Hollow Dawn, so at least we'll be able to look forward to that. But outside of that, of course, we're going to be looking for anything we can put into our off-meta deck for this episode, so let's just hop right into it. I did get a comment asking like why, even though like the the secondary market price for the box is like what, $250 now, why I'm still pricing it at $5.50 a pack, and that's because I did get this box for MSRP when it first released, and I've just been holding on to it. If I were to buy a box for a little bit over, or like significantly over, I would price it at that, but I did get this for MSRP, so I am just going to be pricing it at that. So we have Gavel, Niji, Blast Breath, Upper Yard, Ivankov, Izo for a rare. We have Hiyori. I didn't even know Hiyori was in here. That's pretty cool. Very nice. Yeah, I definitely see this pop up from time to time. Just being able to put something into your life cards is honestly just really good effect. I didn't think that 06 would have made its way in here. Well, I guess like this is 06, so maybe I'm just tripping. We have Gavel for our Jolly Roger, Izo for our second one, and the Big Mom Dawn. I think that's the first time we've gotten this Dawn, so that's pretty cool. Got a lot of the pinks in there. We'll do it like this. Yeah, so we are still looking for like different colors to add to like different sets of Dawn. A lot of the pinks and purples work really well together, so that might go in with that set. We got Gemma, Veg, Sindri, Makino, Ice Age, Momonosuke for our first rare, Kaido, 9-drop Kaido. Honestly, I think we might play black purple Luffy, so this will just honestly go right into there. We do need a lot of purple top end. We don't have like a lot of the good purple card, or like the good purple Straw Hat cards to really utilize a purple black Luffy to its fullest, but the fact that we're getting some big bodies, some bigger Dawn minus effects, especially like this Kaido, could be really good for that strategy. We have the blue Luffy Jolly Rare and Billion Fold World Tricolocosm with, oh, speak of the devil, there is the Hollow Dawn. We got a Reiju, that is very nice. And again, purples, pinks, they all work really well together. So we might just change up our Dawn. I hope this is coming out in the camera well, but like they've got like a circle-ish pattern. Looks really good. Well, we'll throw it up here since it is a hollow. Coming into pack number 3 of 6, we've got Baby Reiju. A lot of these for their alt arts, or for their extended art, like their full art, are spiking really hard. Like if we ever got this as a full art, this is like 65 bucks. So a lot of movement with a lot of the baby Vinsmokes, especially because the new Reiju support is like super crazy. But yeah, Yonji, Baby 5, Radical Beam, Suru, Shirahoshi for a rare, and Ulti for our super rare. And this is honestly a really good card that I wish saw a lot more play. If your leader is multicolored, you can just look at the top 3, add 1 to your hand. So it's like a better version of just some of the searches in the game. But yeah, hopefully this does find its way into some other lists. Ooh, whoa. I was not expecting another full art. Probably not like one of the crazier full arts. Especially because this card doesn't see as much play anymore, but we do have a full art Chopper from ST-01. Very nostalgic card for me. I remember when I first picked up the game, the starter deck 1 was the first one I got, so very nice to see this, but probably not holding a whole lot of value. I'm hoping I'm eating my words on this. Obviously, you'll see the price pop up. We do have the Momonosuke and the King Dawn to follow up. Again, purples, pinks, they just look so good together. Like even these 3 at Dawn alone would look really nice, just because a lot of those colors just mesh together and make a really nice set. Oh my gosh, come on. Coming into pack number 4, we do have Helmeppo, Nakikabura Arrow, Yonji, Imperio Ivankov, Upper Yard, Satori for our rare, Newgate for our SR. I do love this card, very good card, especially back in the older formats. It's not getting a lot of play now, but the fact that we have access to this for something like an off-meta, again, just like the set's really good for if we ever go into off-meta tournaments, we need to pick up another color. Sorry, another color. Very good card. Got a little spoiled. But Brule with the Yonji in the back and the Luffy Dawn, very nice. I think I was actually looking for another Dawn with this kind of tannish color. So yeah, we'll show off the Dawn in this episode, I think. But hopefully, this will be something that we can throw into like another color set. Coming into pack number 5, we do have the Dellinger. Move that off the side. Dellinger, Blast Breath. Whoa, these cards feel like really weird. They weren't like squaring off weird. I feel like some of the cutting's like kind of off. Blast Breath, Izo, Althor, Luffy. Judgment of Hell, honestly a pretty cool card, especially back in older formats where giving 2 of your opponent's characters minus 3,000 was like really impactful. Pretty interesting. We'll see if this makes it in. If we do play like a purple strategy. And ooh, Doflamingo, still a really great card. Love to see this card. We have Guard Point and Suru. Oh, very nice. This will be a little bit of a side grade. Won't count towards our Poneglyph bounty, but the fact that we have another version of Suru is always going to be nice. And our Dawn is the Magellan Dawn. We'll throw Suru over here. Again, purples. Love the look of the purples. Last pack here. Hopefully we'll get something crazy. But I feel like we just got all the hits in this box already. I don't know. Like I haven't really looked into a lot of the ratios for PRB in a while, so maybe we're still due for something. But the second half of this box might just be cooked. Veg, Barrier, Mihawk, one-legged toy soldier, Shirahoshi, Bartolomeo, get another Hiyori, very cool, with Nami and Blast Breath to finish it off, and the Hodidon. We did get a lot of our blues and out of the way for our Dawn, so yeah, that's going to be the opening. We did get two cool things, and of course a lot of like off-meta stuff, or stuff that we can throw into an off-meta deck. But yeah, these are going to be the two big takeaways from this episode. Alright, so since we were just talking about the trade binder, might as well just peep into it. I think I might do this like every 10 episodes, just so it's not like 5 episodes, or we're gonna look into the binder. Oh, not a whole lot has changed since we're just like throwing stuff in. So I think every 10 episodes. The next update will be on the 30. So yeah, we do have some of our winter cards here. Of course, we did trade the pudding off. That was worth like 20-30 bucks, something like that, so it did hold a lot of value. But the rest of these, they are going to be just some nice things to look at here. We do have all our full arts as well as our alt arts here. We did pull this from a entry pack, so that feels really good. Over here we do have our secret rares. We don't have a whole lot in here. The Luffys I am planning on using, spoiler alert. And then we do have the rest of our SR starting from this page onward. We do have a lot of these teaches, so if we did want to branch out into Marshall D Teach, especially as we get into some of the later format, or later formats where Teach is going to be super relevant, especially with that 10 cost Kuzan, or it's not 10 cost, I forgot what it is, but the new Kuzan from the set 10, yeah, that's just like getting us really set. We do have pretty much no sort of sorting algorithm for this, so you'll just see like an Adio here, blah blah blah. This Shockwave is actually textured. It's super hard to tell, but as I was like flipping through all my cards, I did notice that like there's a little bit of like a grainier texture on the Buddha itself, and then a really smooth texture on this kind of barrier. So this is a textured rare. I almost didn't catch that, and this is holding a good amount of value, but of course this was edited in to the last episode, so pretty cool that, you know, it's a little bit of extra value that we got there. We do have like a lot of Revolutionary Army stuff, but unfortunately Bello Betty is banned for off meta. Another take that it's like, yeah, I kind of understand it. It's like kind of peeping into some of the topping lists last format, or I guess this format right now, but in the next format I think it does fall off a little bit. But in case it ever does get unbanned, we do have like our Koala Sabo to be able to explore that strategy. And then I haven't updated this part in a while, but some of the more valuable non-SR stuff makes its way in here, like the Radical Beams. I do have to go in and just check how much like a lot of the Jolly Roger stuff is, see if we can throw it in here, but again, for the most part, just untouched. Like Kaya is always going to hold some value. We do have stuff like our stamped cards, like these two cards are stamped. Same with these two. Hopefully we'll be able to add to that with the release of set 10 coming out soon. And then this is what I was talking about with the Dawn and a lot of their color scheming. So it's like here we have like a lot of reds and oranges. I guess some of like this page with like Shanks and his red hair and his kind of tannish skin. So a lot of these colors just look together. If we did a set of just boom, 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 like these 10 Dawn, or if we wanted to get a little bit more variety, cut out this row and like 6 here, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 here. I think these colors just work really well together as like a warmish Dawn set. And of course, we did see the blue-ish Dawn set that we did for the last episode. And then here we go with the purples. A lot of these purples, and these are just like 10 Dawn that don't repeat. I think a lot of these, if we just ran this as a set, looks really good. And it's always like we're flipping new Dawn and it's like new artwork to look at instead of like a whole set of 10. Which, I mean, whole set of 10 does look really good, but I do love just how well all of these colors look together. And then same thing with these blues. A lot of the lighter blues, I know we used a lot of the darker blues with a lot of black accents in the last video, but a lot of these blues just look really nice. And then we do have some spillover of some of the purples. A lot of the repeats, like the Magellan, we have 2 Magellan, and then the what's her name, Perona. So yeah, and then all the way back here we do have our leader collection of available leaders. Hasn't changed much outside of the newest leaders being introduced here. I think Lim is missing, actually. I have to throw Lim in here. And then some of our Navy stuff that we will occasionally throw in as different text, like our Isho. We've unfortunately benched Isho for now, but if he ever does make its way back in here, he's just in the binder sitting waiting for his turn. And yeah, that is the trade binder. Thought I would give that a quick update while we are, getting some stuff out of the way. Alright, so as you know from the title, we are playing the Purple Black Luffy, and we do not have any copies of the starter deck Purple Luffy, so we might be cooked, but regardless, we are going to try out this leader. We do only have to win one game to finish our bounty on that, so that'll be exciting. Hopefully we can at least take one game. Hopefully the new cards won't matter that much, and we don't have them in the list. But that being said, we are going to lean a little bit more on some of the black cards, and there are going to be a lot of pretty hot take choices in this list, especially just because we don't have the purple starter deck. So I tried to make this with as many cards as I had in the collection already. I'm still saving some of those commons and rare card guarantees for a list later down the line, so this is not going to be the best deck in the room. This might not even be a good list in the room, but we are just looking to take one game. Hopefully we can get us there with this list, so let's just hop right into it. We are starting with 2 copies of the Trafalgar Law. I only had 2 copies, that's why I'm only running it at 2. Obviously, if I had more copies, I'd probably throw in more. We do have a searchable 2K Beppo. So he reads, your turn once per turn. When a Don card from your field is returned to your Don deck, give up to one of your opponent, or give up to one of your leader or characters 1,000 power during this turn. So mainly there is a searchable 2K, but he is definitely usable. I don't see a future where we do play him out, just because I'd rather just use that 2 Don to attach directly, especially because our leader does benefit from having a Don attached onto him. We do have 2 copies of this Roronoa Zoro. This is one of the better cards in the list. I only had 2 copies. Again, if I had more, I'd run more. But to supplement him, we do have 3 copies of the Zoro Juro. Hopefully that'll make up for us not having a full playset of this Zoro, but we definitely do want to see this card in our early game. We have 2 copies of the Nami. I did trade off the other 2 copies a lot earlier in the series, but if we have 8 cost or higher, then we can draw a card. Not going to be as useful in the early game, maybe unless we're getting a whole lot of ramp, but I think just having a blocker that draws us is going to be really good. We do have a lot of those blockers that keep on drawing, so we're going to be playing a lot more mid-range, hopefully, especially with a lot of the cards that we're going to get into later. For example, the Frankie. We did trade into 3 copies of this Frankie. He's going to be really good. With that Don -2, trash a card from your hand, draw 2 cards, so we are able to cycle out a lot of the other cards that we don't need. And of course, he is going to be a blocker working with our leader effect. We do have another searchable 2K in the Frenosuke. He does have a semi-relevant effect. Don ×1, a character gains rush, so at a baseline you're investing 6 Don for a 5K swing. It might come up. I'm more in the camp that it probably won't come up, but it's nice to have. Plus, searchable 2K. I say searchable 2K like we're going to be spamming this law over and over again when we only have 2 copies, but the fact that we do have just a little bit of synergy, especially with the 2Ks, could help out there. We have a black starter deck Luffy Classic. We have 4 copies of the Sanji, again one of the better cards in our list, especially because our leader effect is going to give 1 cost to all of our characters, so Sanji can count himself as a 6 cost for his effect, so that's going to be really good there. Some of the more tech cards, we do have 2 Queen. Obviously Queen is not going to be working with our leader effect since it's only a Don -1, but again, this is a blocker that lets us draw and cycle and get a few of the cards that are dead in our hand out of there. We have 2 Frankie from the starter deck. I think this is honestly just kind of a funny card. Just to be annoying, he's got a Don ×1 opponent's turn when a character has a cost of 6 or more, so as long as we attach a Don to our leader, he cannot be KO'd by our opponent's effects, and he gains 2,000 power, so he's just going to be pretty tanky. Again, we're kind of just stalling for the later turns, trying to get as much top end played as possible, so I think that Frankie's just going to be kind of a funny include. And then we do have 2 copies of the Sabo. Again, just another blocker that lets us draw. So in total we have what, 4 here, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have 9 blockers that we'll be able to draw. So we have a little bit of a pretty sturdy mid game and a very weak early game unless we do see the Zoro. But we only have 5 copies between the Zoro and then the Zoro Juro, so hopefully we'll at least be able to bridge the early game, go into this mid game, at least stall for a few turns before we get to some of our bigger bodies. And speaking of, we're going to start off with 4 copies of our 8 cost Gecko Moria. That's what I had in mind of saying. Now this does clash a little bit, we'll get into this later, but with the Luffy, but I definitely do think that Moria, since we don't have a whole lot of other good cards to throw in, is going to be at least semi-decent, especially because we can pull back the Frankie, the Nami if we don't have the Frankie, and then our 2 cost option is not really there. I mean Beppo, because if we do play Beppo, we are able to get that effect. So maybe if we go Frankie Beppo, we can -2 get the leader effect here, and then because we return to Dawn, Beppo can give our leader 1k for the turn, so it's something that may come up. But I think that just being able to build a board with this is still going to be worth it. And of course, as you can see, we're already on 8 cost. We don't play Rebecca. We don't play Rebecca in this list because Rebecca only grabs black cards, so we're not able to grab any of our like a Frankie, Frenosuke for like extra 2k or utilities. So we're rocking the Moria. I think this is not going to be a huge deal in this deck, but again, we don't have a whole lot of other good top end to go into, and I haven't really been able to trade into much of the good purple top end. I have traded some of it off, obviously, like the 9 cost Linlins and whatever. We're going to be rocking with that. We do have 2 copies of Kaido. We did just pull one of them in today's opening, which feels really good. But he does have a Dawn -5, blow up a 6 cost or less, and gain Rush. So it's going to be able to work with our leader effect, and of course having a 10k Rush is going to be really good. We do have 1 copy of the 9 cost Luffy. He'll also gain Rush, and he'll be able to draw a card. So this is another good piece in our top end, and we are playing the 2 copies of the 10 cost Luffy to be able to grab another turn. I think this is again in conflict with Gecko Moria because Gecko Moria wants to be building board, right? We want to be putting out stuff like our Frankie, and again, not the greatest option, but an option we have, Beppo. But Luffy wants to tear our whole board down, die -10, blow up your whole board, and then take another turn. So, I mean, I think this is still going to be a strong card. Don't get me wrong, but it is in conflict with some of the other cards in our list. And then moving on to our events, I'm running out of space, so I might need to like layer stuff on. We do have 4 copies of the Gum Gum Giant. We did pull 1 and trade it into 3 others. I think that's how it worked. But this is like, this card needs to be banned. If there's any card I'm advocating for in the next ban list, it is going to be Gum Gum Giant. I think this card is a problem. A lot of the new lists coming out very early into OP11 are purple. And I think this card just provides way too much value. So we're going to abuse it while we still have it. We do have 1 copy of Blast Breath. Strictly worse, especially because it doesn't work with our leader. Not that our leader effect even would have procced with these events, since they are counter events, and our leader effect only works on our turn, but we do have a Dawn -1 for 4,000 power and attached to a 1 cost, so we got a little bit of defense there. We do have 2 copies of the Gum Gum Lightning. Dawn -2, we can KO one of our opponent's characters with a cost of 6k, or a power of 6,000 or less. I'm so not used to power effects, so used to cost effects, especially since we play black. And the supplement that we do have, we're just going to put it here. I'm sorry, we're covering up some of our nicer cards. 2 copies of Gum Gum Jump Rope. Dawn -2, we can rest a 5 cost and then draw a card. So my thought process behind this was that since we don't have Usohachi, we need some way to get around and try and go for game in those really pivotal turns. So we're going to be playing the things we can KO or we can rest. That's like the only reason why we're playing these 2 cards. I see these cards teched in occasionally into like Purple Luffy or Black Purple Luffy, but for our purposes, because we don't have access to the starter deck, we're going to be running those. And to finish off, a starter deck 14 classic, the 1000 Sunny. Give all of our black cards, or black straw hat characters, +1 cost, so it really only works with the Frankie, Sanji, Nami, since it does say black, but it basically makes our deck into a 48 card deck since we just draw a card. One Dawn, draw a card. I don't think that it's going to be the worst card in the list. So this is what we're rocking with today. I think this is a really wonky list. I am very aware of some anti-synergies here, but again, we're only trying to win one game to get that bounty out of the way. But yeah, hopefully the theory that I put into this deck is going to work out in our favor. But for that, we'll see in game 1. So speaking of, let's get into game 1, and we are versus Purple Yellow Pudding. And admittedly, I don't have a whole lot going on in my hand, so I did fire that Trafalgar Law trying to get a Zoro, either of these Zoros, the Zoro or Zoro Juro, because that would mean I would be able to ramp, but I was unable to find him. So coming into Pudding's turn, of course he's going to be able to attack my Law and then flip up 2 of his life to ramp a Dawn, and I believe that is as rested. Yep, he did correct it there. And then seeing his life cards, I'm not having a whole lot of faith, especially as we go into the late game, because if we do whittle down his life, that means he's going to be adding a 9 cost purple bomb and then a 10 cost bomb, and that is just going to be devastating. The rest of the Dawn under my leader, and I'm going to swing, and obviously that does mean that I just don't have a whole lot going on in my hand right now, since otherwise I would want to be establishing board, especially because he does have that 6 cost Charlotte Linlin being able to either force me to trash 2 cards from hand or a life card, so I did choose the life card, and that would have been a ramp, which would have been really nice, so that's a little bit unfortunate. He does take the swing here, and that does give him 10 drop mom to hand, and he is on his 10 on turn, so he's just going to fire it off. He's going to heal a life and then take a life from me, and then he's going to swing in with that 6 drop Linlin. I'm going to block 2k and then block out, or counter out with the 5. I'm honestly not seeing a whole lot of a win con here, so I'm just going to try and establish some blockers, see if I can somehow get enough board presence with these blockers and then block and then still give some counter, but I am only at 1 life. He does play the ace, and then he's going to go rush down life, and I am being put down to 0 life, which is really scary. I'm going to block Tua here, block in 2, and then give counter for this last swing, and I am on my last leg here. As a desperation move, I am just going to play the 10 cost Luffy here, Dawn -10, but our leader ability is going to give us 1 active, 1 rested, so then I am able to use the Luffy effect to be able to rest 1, ramp 1, and then take another turn. So I am able to swing 6 here, and then start my second turn. I did draw Frankie for turn, and I would have liked to see him before I dropped the 10 drop. Honestly, I think I would have just stayed with the Sabo and then play the Frankie there, Dawn -2, to be able to draw 2. But unfortunately I did get it off the draw, so I am going to be starting my assault here, and he's going to get the Brûlé out of life, which honestly feels really bad since that 10 cost is not going to connect. Not like I was going to be able to push for game that turn anyways, but he is going to slam the ace down, being able to heal life and then start swinging with it, so I give the blocker, and as soon as he gives the second ace swing, I'm going to Giant -2, trash 1 to be able to draw 2 more cards. I am looking for 1 more card of counter, but I didn't find it, so I did fire off the second Giant, discarding the second 10 cost. And then as soon as he swings again, that's going to be game, and that is GG. Round 2, and we are versus Lim. This is a deck that we've seen before on the channel. Not by this pilot, but we have seen it before. So he's going to start off with the Law, being able to add the Zoro to hand, the 9 cost Zoro. That's pretty much the whole win con of this deck. You want to be ramping constantly, just trying to get to that 9 cost Zoro, which is honestly a really good strength, especially because the purple Law is able to add it. But the fact that I did see him add it to hand very early in the game means I can play around it, especially as we head into those higher Dawn turns, and we have to really start considering when he's going to be able to drop it. Also, he did add the Sakazuki off of the Lim effect, and that Sakazuki is able to pop, I believe it is a 5 cost, so I was really reluctant on playing the Zoro Juro on my 3 Dawn turn or 4 Dawn turn, I forgot exactly which one, because I thought he was just going to pop it. So like here, I decided to play the Zoro Juro on my little bit higher Dawn turn because I was like, you know what, I might as well just try and get it out. Even if he does blow it up, I do want to still establish some board here. I don't want to just not have the opportunity to be able to establish board. So on my turn, I am going to use the 2 Dawn event to be able to rest the Doflamingo. My thought process was that now gives my Zoro Juro something to swing at. I want to swing at the blocker, but had I swung into the blocker without using that, he would have just blocked it with the Doflamingo. And I think he does forget that you're actually able to restand the Rosinante after an attack, so that is something to remember if you are playing this limb leader. And I did swing 7 into the Rosinante, which does seem like overkill, but that was either going to be swung at the Rosinante or the Doflamingo. I didn't want to swing at the Doflamingo because it would have been a lot easier to counter out of, so if I swung into the Rosinante, I pretty much knew it was going to go down, and I just really want to keep him there at 4 life, starve him of his resources, because all of the cards that he has to play have to come from hand. They're not coming from the trash or from the deck, so he's not gaining a whole lot of advantage from external sources. Everything he plays has to come from hand. And from here, I'm pretty much just trying to beat him out on board. I did use the 9-drop Kaido to be able to blow up the Doflamingo, and then I swung into the Sanji with my leader effect, and I kind of forgot that Sanji's effect activates on KO. I thought it was on play for some reason, and he just didn't activate it. So he does get out the Rosinante effect, or Rosinante from the effect of Sanji, since he is able to play either Odyssey or Straw Hat. So it kind of feels bad that I had to swing my Kaido into his smaller Rosinante body, but it had to have been done. So we're going to do it again this turn. We are going to activate the Luffy, John -2 to be able to draw a card, and then he gains Rush, and again I am just going to swing that into the Rosinante. Oh no, I actually swing the leader into the Rosinante. And he does counter out of it, which is honestly kind of valid, since that means that there's going to be a little bit less pressure going into his life, especially because he knows that I'm just going to want to win board here, so I am going to swing that into the Rosinante, which I am perfectly fine with. He does play the Audio on his turn, being able to restand 3 Dawn for the leader effect, and he does play the Robin off of it. So the Robin's not honestly one of the better targets, so I'm starting to get the sense that, yeah, I am draining his hand, and he's going to run out of resources pretty soon. And as you might have caught, I did make an illegal play there. I did attach 3 Dawn to the 1-cost slot and swing with it, but he was played that turn, so that was totally illegal. I am very sorry, but I don't think that really would have influenced the outcome of the game, especially because he was running really low on hand size, but still, I'll be a little bit more attentive to that. I think it just slipped my mind. And then coming back to my turn, we only see 1 blocker. We have 2 huge bodies and a leader swing, so we're just going to swing the first one. It's going to be eaten by the blocker, swing the second one, and that's GG. Coming into round 3, it is going to be versus the Mono Red Sanji, and I actually think this is going to be a really good leader into the off-meta tournaments, especially because just being able to give anything Rush is going to be really good, and there's a lot of good cards that you can utilize with that. So here is a card that we don't see too often. I'm going to flash it up on the screen. This is going to be the 3-drop Baccarat Blocker. Coming out of set 7, this blocker reads, on your opponent's attack once per turn, you may trash 1 card from your hand. Up to one of your leader characters gains 2,000 power during this battle. So essentially, it turns one of the cards into your hand into a 2k counter card, which is honestly pretty cool. And then he plays and gives Rush to the Bear King, which if your opponent has a character or leader with a base power of 6,000 or more, it cannot be KO'd by battle. I kind of misread that card, so I did just use the Sanji effect to be able to blow it up. And I thought that it said if your opponent's character had 6,000 power, just period. I didn't see that it said base power. Had I read that, I think I would have just swung into it with the rest of my characters on board and then play the Sanji to be able to remove the Baccarat instead. And then he does play one of the best cards in the Sanji archetype, which is going to be the Wapple. Wapple being able to give minus 2k to one of your opponent's characters and then give itself 2k until the end of your opponent's turn. Honestly, throughout this, I kind of forget that it's during your opponent's turn as well. Here I am going to play the Moria into Zoro Juro to be able to Dawn -3, since it says at least 1 Dawn, so we can go Dawn -3 to use leader effect to gain 1 active, 1 rested, and then Zoro's effect to get 1 active, so we essentially get 2 Dawn. Had we only done Dawn -2, then we would have been able to use the Zoro effect, but not the leader effect. So it was important that we did Dawn -3 there. And of course, the Beppo was there to give our leader 1k for the turn, which isn't like the craziest thing in the world, but it is kind of funny that that is a tech that exists in this specific build of the deck. So from here, our opponent is just going to try and win out on board. He's going to be able to use that Wobble effect just to be able to -2 onto one of our characters and then start swinging into them, just so it's a lot easier and it demands a lot more counter for me to be able to save my characters. I do use the 2-cost event to be able to blow up the Baccarat Dawn -2, but I did forget to use the Beppo effect to give my leader plus 1k for the turn, so a little bit wasteful there, but I am able to play the Nami here to be able to draw a card and have a blocker, so that blocker is going to be really important in terms of trying to keep my characters alive, especially because we see that he's going to be using his Wapple to be able to swing into my Moria, or not swing into my Moria quite yet, but lower my Morias with a lot of the Wapple effects, so it's going to be really hard to protect, but we do have that blocker, and so he's forced to use the Beppo here to be able to KO my Moria. So since we were able to alleviate a lot of that offensive pressure with the blocker, as well as a lot of the counter we had in hand, it's going to be really easy to be able to come into this turn with a whole lot of swings and with a whole lot of Dawn, just be able to swing out with our board. So we are just going to 7, 9, and then attach the rest of the Dawn to the Zoro Juro and swing in. That's going to be GG.
Playing games I own is like
Pudding. Or like any of the...
it's fairly recent. It was on the Switch.
I haven't played that one, but... Oh, I got a Dawn. Oh, is that an SR? No. So, we ended the day at 2-1, pushing our overall record to 51-26, and yeah, we're still almost there at the double the wins compared to losses. Only 3 games for today since the video was already getting pretty long, and honestly, I didn't expect the deck to perform as well as it did tonight. Despite me talking about how I really didn't like Moria's inclusion in the deck, he really did carry us in that last game where he was able to revive some Dawn minus cards so we could use our leader effect, or some blockers to get us back onto the crackback. But next week, we'll be back on our good old Smoker deck, and the week after, we'll be in the OP10 format. Thank you so much for watching. If you like the content, drop a like and sub to the channel. The more subscribers we get, the closer we inch to the big sub bounty. And speaking of bounties, don't forget to leave a comment suggesting your new bounty. New waves of bounties drop every 5 episodes. And while you're down there, let me know your thoughts on today's episode. Until next time, drink your water, pass out love, hugs, kisses, mwah.